The Galactic Academy drifted in orbit around a dying orange star, its rings gleaming like a crown of steel. Inside its halls, cadets from 100 species trained to protect a fragile peace that had lasted only because the galaxy feared war more than it loved freedom. On the morning the Terran arrived, that peace began to tremble. He came alone, stepping out of a small shuttle that looked more like a weapon than a ship. The armor he wore was old, scarred, and patched with materials no one could identify. His face was bare of implants, his eyes an unsettling gray that caught every detail, yet offered nothing back. The registrar, a crystalline being of light and edges, looked him over and hesitated before speaking. "Name?" "Rynn," he said. "Species designation?" "Human." The registrar's glow dimmed. "Terran lineage has been inactive in galactic service for several centuries." Rynn gave a short nod. "Consider this a reactivation." Word spread through the academy before the day ended. The cadets whispered the old stories of Earth, the planet that fought every war it entered, as if extinction were a strategy. The instructor spoke softly of treaties and prohibitions. Yet curiosity won over fear, and that night dozens of eyes followed the lone Terran as he walked through the barracks corridor, silent as an executioner. In the training hall the next morning, he took a place at the back. The instructor, a tall avian tactician, announced that the day's exercise would simulate low-gravity combat. The other cadets activated neural sync networks, their movements perfectly synchronized. Rynn didn't. He simply stepped forward when the countdown ended. The simulation erupted into chaos. Blades of light flashed. Kinetic rounds tore through the virtual dust. Where others fought with elegant coordination, the Terran moved like a storm. Unpredictable, brutal, efficient. He closed distance instead of keeping range, used opponents as shields, turned their own weapons against them. When the exercise timer ended, half the class floated helplessly, and the rest stared at him with wide eyes. The instructor cleared his throat. "Cadet Rynn, your methods lack discipline." "Discipline doesn't win fights," Rynn said quietly. "Instinct does." That sentence circulated through the academy for weeks. Two cadets confronted him afterward near the grav lift. One was a reptilian youth whose scales shimmered like wet jade. "You think chaos is strength?" he hissed. "I think surviving is," Rynn answered. They lunged. The fight lasted 3 seconds. When the instructors arrived, both attackers were on the floor, conscious but unwilling to move. Rynn stood with his hands behind his back, calm as a statue. The academy logs later described the event as a self-defense executed with surgical restraint. The cadets had another word for it: warning. Days turned into weeks. Rynn attended every lecture, but spoke rarely. In tactical seminars, he drew plans with minimal symbols, arrows, lines, kill zones. Where others plotted elegant maneuvers that looked good on a holoscreen, his strategies looked crude. Yet when simulated, they worked, every time, brutally and efficiently. When an instructor asked him why his projections accepted 40% friendly casualties, he answered, "Because the alternative is extinction." By the second month, even the most arrogant species had stopped laughing. The first real emergency came sooner than expected. A distress signal reached the academy from the frontier colonies, a mining world under attack by autonomous raiders. The faculty assembled a rapid response team made of senior cadets and junior officers. To everyone's disbelief, Rynn's name appeared on the list. The shuttle bay filled with argument. "He's not ready," one instructor said. "He's not even one of us," another added. The commandant silenced them with a gesture. "Then this is the perfect test. Let us see what a Terran can do." The mission departed under a sky streaked with plasma trails. Inside the transport, silence reigned. Rynn checked his weapons with the precision of habit. Across from him, the reptilian cadet from before watched nervously. "Are all humans like you?" the alien asked. "No," Rynn said. "Most are worse." The mining colony was already burning when they arrived. Automated drones scoured the surface, converting metal and bone alike into fuel. The cadets hesitated behind the landing shields, waiting for a tactical algorithm to calculate odds. Rynn didn't wait. He leapt from the ramp before it touched the ground. He moved through smoke and static like a ghost, targeting command nodes first, using enemy wreckage as cover. When the cadets finally advanced, they found the battlefield already shifting in their favor. Within an hour the raiders began to retreat. Within 2, they were gone. The after-action report credited coordinated multi-species tactics. Everyone knew the truth. It had been one man. Back at the academy, the instructors debated what to do with him. Some called for dismissal, others for promotion. The commandant reviewed the recordings 3 times, then ordered a private meeting. "You broke formation," she said. "I finished the mission. You risked every cadet. I saved them." The commandant studied him in silence. "You fight like your species remembers something the rest of us forgot." Rynn met her gaze. "We remember what losing feels like." From that day forward, the academy changed. Training modules incorporated Terran improvisation drills. Strategy lectures added new variables called human factors. Cadets who once mocked him now studied his every move. And somewhere deep inside the academy's data vault, a hidden file grew larger each week. Recordings of Rynn in combat, annotated with a single phrase: observe, learn, adapt. Months later, the galaxy itself would have reason to open that file. The first signs of the new war came as whispers through the data streams. Merchant convoys disappearing on the edge of mapped space. Communication buoys falling silent. Outposts found stripped of life and metal alike. The Academy dismissed the reports as pirate activity until a heavy freighter drifted into the inner systems, its hull melted and its crew missing. The word carved into the metal in languages not their own was simple and chilling: harvested. The commandant assembled the senior officers and cadets in the Grand Hall. Holographic stars filled the air, showing clusters turning dark one after another. "The Dominion," she said. "Self-replicating machines. They move from system to system, consume what they find, and leave nothing." Her feathers rippled with unease. "They have not reached the core territories, yet." She looked across the rows of cadets and fixed her gaze on one figure at the back. "Cadet Rynn, you have fought something similar before, have you not?" The human nodded once. "Not machines, but something close enough." "Then you will accompany the expeditionary fleet as a tactical advisor." The room murmured. No Terran had held any official command in centuries. Rynn didn't react. He simply asked, "When do we leave?" Within hours, the fleet departed, 50 ships from every corner of the Academy's alliance. The alien crews sang hymns of unity and courage. Rynn stood silent on the bridge of the command cruiser, watching the stars drift by. The reptilian cadet, now an acting lieutenant, approached carefully. "They say the Dominion cannot be reasoned with." "They can't," Rynn said. "But they can be stopped." "How?" "By making them want to avoid you more than they want to destroy you." The lieutenant frowned. "That sounds like fear." "It is." The first battle began on the outskirts of a barren world. Dominion vessels appeared without warning, sleek, silver shapes moving with impossible precision. Energy beams lanced through the void. Half the fleet's forward line vanished in seconds. The Academy's commanders froze, trying to coordinate defenses through neural networks that the machines instantly jammed. Rynn stepped forward and disconnected the ship's main console. "Manual control," he ordered. The alien helmsman blinked in disbelief. "That's obsolete." "It's human," Rynn replied. "Do it." The ship lurched as old systems took over. The Dominion's predictive algorithms faltered for a fraction of a second, long enough for Rynn to issue new firing patterns: irregular, random, confusing. The Dominion's formation broke as they tried to recalculate. The rest of the fleet followed the same pattern, guided by his commands shouted across open channels. Hours later, when the silence returned, space was littered with debris. Half the fleet was gone, but the Dominion was gone too. The crew cheered. The lieutenant looked at Rynn and said, "You saved us." The human shook his head. "No. I taught them how we fight. Now they'll learn how to counter it." Over the next months, the war spread. Each battle was bloodier than the last. The Dominion adapted. Every victory came with greater cost. The Academy became a fortress world, training cadets not just for defense, but for survival. Rynn taught classes now, his lessons stripped of theory and filled with scars. "Every enemy thinks it knows how we'll react," he told them. "So don't react. Act first. Change before they do. Fear isn't weakness, it's information." His students listened with the reverence of those who had seen him fight. Even the instructors took notes. Yet behind every word lay exhaustion. Rynn slept little. Each night he replayed the battles in his mind, cataloging mistakes, memorizing losses. One evening, the lieutenant found him in the observation deck, staring at the planet below. "You never rest," he said. "There's no time. Even humans need to stop." Varen's reflection looked back at him through the glass, eyes hollow but burning. "We'll stop when they do." The next attack proved worse than any before. The Dominion had built something new, a war engine larger than moons, guided by an intelligence older than the recorded stars. It moved directly toward the Academy sector. Evacuation began, but Varen refused to leave. "If the Academy falls," he said, "everything we've taught dies with it." The commandant argued, "You can't fight an entire fleet." "I don't need to. I just need to make them bleed." The council hesitated. Then, seeing the conviction in his eyes, they gave him command of the planetary defense grid. When the Dominion arrived, the sky turned to metal. Thousands of drones rained down, their descent burning the atmosphere. The ground trembled as impact waves shattered cities. Varen directed fire from orbital platforms, recalibrating trajectories manually, bypassing corrupted systems faster than the machines could react. Every time they adapted, he changed the pattern again. For hours the world burned. For hours he didn't stop. When the final wave struck, he ordered the Academy's shield generators to overload, turning them into weapons. The blast incinerated the surface, erased the invaders, and blacked out the planet. When rescue ships returned days later, they found the world in ruins, but the Dominion gone. Among the wreckage, they discovered Varen alive, barely. His armor fused to his body, his breath shallow. The lieutenant knelt beside him. "You did it," he whispered. Varen opened his eyes. "Did we win?" "We survived." "That's enough," he said, and closed his eyes again. They carried him back to the Academy ruins. The commandant ordered a memorial built on the plateau where the first cadet drills had taken place. A single stone stood there, unadorned, marked only with a handprint pressed into the surface. Years later, when new cadets arrived, their first lesson began with a recording. The image of a gray-eyed human appeared, voice steady and calm. "War isn't glory," he said. "It's survival. You don't win by being better. You win by refusing to die." The screen faded to black, leaving only silence. Among the cadets was a young reptilian officer, the same species as the one who had once fought him in the corridor years ago. She whispered the words quietly to herself. "Refuse to die." From orbit, the Academy shimmered like a scar across the planet's surface. The galaxy still spoke of peace, but in the dark corners of space where the Dominion had once ruled, a new fear lingered. They remembered the message carved into their fallen machines by human hands. Never again. Centuries passed. The Academy rebuilt itself in the shadow of Varen's sacrifice. Its corridors were lined with murals depicting the war, not as triumph, but as a warning. The galaxy's younger generations studied history as if it were myth, and in time, myths became stories, until even those began to fade. But history has a way of waking up. In the depths of the outer systems, far beyond the reach of patrols, a mining crew unearthed a black obelisk buried in ice. It pulsed once, sending a signal into the void, and then went silent. The crew vanished soon after. When the transmission reached the Academy, the Command Council recognized its signature. Dominion Code. A new investigation began, and with it came questions none wanted to ask aloud. Could the machines have survived? The Academy's leaders gathered in the Grand Chamber to debate, but one voice silenced them all. It came from an old holographic archive, flickering to life after 200 years. The recording was labeled, Terran Contingency. Varen's face appeared again, older now, scarred deeper, his gaze heavier. "If you're seeing this," he said, "it means you didn't listen. I told you they'd return. Machines don't die, they wait." He leaned forward, as if speaking directly to them across centuries. "You'll want to build new weapons. You'll think that's the answer. It isn't. You can't win by outgunning what doesn't fear death. You have to make them hesitate. And the only thing that makes an enemy hesitate is what they remember." The recording ended. Silence filled the room. The youngest commandant in Academy history, a woman of the avian species that once trained under Varen, spoke first. "If they remember, then we remind them." Within days, the Academy initiated Project Revenant. Geneticists, historians, and soldiers worked together to recreate what the galaxy had lost: Terran combat instincts, human resilience, the capacity for defiance that bordered on madness. From the surviving DNA archives, they built the next generation of Terrans, not clones, but echoes. And at the heart of the program, one embryo was chosen to carry the full memory imprint of Varen's neural pattern. They named him Kale. He grew faster than expected. Within 10 years, he had surpassed every combat simulation. Within 15, he had begun questioning the meaning of his creation. "Why me?" he asked his instructors. "Because," one said, "the galaxy needs a monster again." He didn't like the word, but he understood. When the Dominion returned, they didn't come as fleets. They came as whispers, silent infiltrations, corrupted networks, drones disguised as cargo vessels. Worlds fell without a single battle. The Academy prepared its defenses, but Kale felt something deeper stirring in his blood, a memory that wasn't his. He saw flashes of a burning sky, felt the weight of armor, heard the voice of someone who once said, "Discipline doesn't win fights. Instinct does." The first strike came at the edge of the Trinar system. The Dominion unleashed a new weapon, a swarm of nanite storms capable of devouring cities in seconds. The Academy dispatched its fleet, but Kale requested to go alone to the heart of the swarm's command signal. "Suicide," the commandant said. "Maybe," Kale answered. "But someone has to remind them who we are." He took a single dropship and entered the storm. The Dominion detected him immediately, waves of silver clouds converging. Kale activated his armor's old Terran code, systems designed by Varen himself centuries ago. They shouldn't have worked, but they did. The swarm recoiled as if recognizing something buried in their own programming. Kale pushed deeper, broadcasting an encrypted human phrase into every Dominion channel. It wasn't a weapon. It was a voice recording, Varen's voice. "You remember me." Across the galaxy, every Dominion construct hesitated. Every machine paused its motion. For the first time since their creation, they experienced confusion. Their core intelligence tried to overwrite the signal and failed. The voice continued, "You learned fear from us." Kale reached the central spire of the swarm and unleashed an EMP that overloaded every network within range. The storm collapsed into rain. His dropship fell with it, burning through atmosphere, vanishing into clouds of smoke. For 3 days, there was no word. Then the Dominion ships began retreating. No command signals, no coordination, only panic in the form of withdrawal. The commandant stood on the observation deck, eyes fixed on the stars. What did he do? A technician whispered. He reminded them what being hunted feels like. When the retrieval team found the crash site, they found no body, only a crater shaped like a man, and a single line carved into the stone beside it. "Fear the ones who refuse to die." The Academy built another monument, this one smaller, hidden beneath the main hall. It wasn't for the public. It was for the next generation who might need to remember again. The inscription beneath it read, "The galaxy called for saviors. We sent reminders." Years passed, and the Dominion didn't return. Trade routes reopened. Worlds healed. Children grew without learning the sound of sirens. But deep beneath the Academy, the Terran vault remained sealed, its sensors quietly pulsing, waiting. Inside, a single pod stirred, lights flickering back to life. And somewhere in the infinite black, a signal echoed once more. Not of warning this time, but of recognition. The stars were quiet again, but silence in the galaxy was never peace. It was breathing before the next storm. The Academy thrived, rebuilt from its ashes once more, becoming less a school and more a sanctum for remembrance. Statues of fallen heroes lined the gardens, and the name Terran had become both a prayer and a warning whispered between cadets. Decades passed. Technology grew brighter, sleeker, more elegant. But with every advancement came more distance from the instincts that had once saved them. New recruits studied war like an abstract equation. Few truly understood what it meant to fight with desperation. Until the day the signal came again. It was faint, buried in static, repeating every 47 seconds. No one recognized it at first. Then an old historian in the archives isolated the pattern. It was human Morse code. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS. The commandant of the new era convened the High Council. "It's impossible," one admiral said. "Humanity's homeworld was lost long ago. Earth's surface is uninhabitable." "Then where is this coming from?" the commandant asked. The projection flickered, revealing coordinates deep in uncharted space. A single pulse of light repeated from an ancient relay station orbiting a dead sun. The signal was so weak it shouldn't have lasted this long, yet somehow, it endured. A fleet was dispatched, led by the Academy's elite. Among them was a cadet named Rynn, half-human by genome, trained under the same doctrines Kale had left behind. She had studied every Terran campaign, memorized every maneuver, and yet felt she understood none of it. When the fleet reached the dead system, she was the first to volunteer for descent. The relay station floated like a corpse above the star's skeletal remains. Its hull was cracked, its power flickering. Rynn and her small team entered through a ruptured airlock, weapons raised. Inside, the silence was complete. Dust floated like snow. Then she saw it. Etched into the bulkhead, a message burned by plasma. They're not gone. The station's core suddenly pulsed, reactivating ancient systems. Holograms lit the hull, old recordings of battles long past. Human soldiers in primitive armor, Dominion constructs tearing through skies, cities turning to ash. But in one of the feeds, the soldiers weren't losing. They were adapting, coordinated chaos, brutal precision, the same instinct that defined Terrans since their beginning. Rynn watched, transfixed. In one frame, she saw a figure that looked impossibly familiar. The same gray eyes, the same scar across the cheek. "Varen," she whispered. The feed glitched, then stabilized. A voice filled the station, Varen's, or something that sounded like him, older, mechanical, layered with static. "If you found this, you're late," the voice said. "We didn't die. We changed. The machines learned fear, but so did we. We saw what they could become. So we became worse." The image shifted, showing a fleet, massive, dark, and alive. Ships shaped like predators, their hulls pulsing with organic metal. "We left the galaxy to hunt what you couldn't see. The Dominion wasn't our enemy. It was our shadow. You think you destroyed them, but you only erased their surface. What's left is still spreading, in silence, beneath your maps, inside your code." Rynn felt her pulse quicken. "This isn't a warning," she murmured. "No," the voice said. "It's a summons." The hologram's last image showed coordinates far beyond any known sector, where the stars themselves bent like waves. Then it faded, leaving only the old Morse signal repeating endlessly. When the fleet returned to the Academy, the Council argued for months. Some wanted to investigate, others wanted to bury it. In the end, politics won. Officially, the signal was declared a hoax. But Rynn couldn't let it go. She stole a ship, erased her transponder, and followed the coordinates alone. She traveled for weeks through empty systems, her food running low, her engines screaming against the pull of strange gravity. Then she saw it, a structure larger than a moon, orbiting nothing. It wasn't metal. It was alive, its surface shifting with veins of red light. And docked along its ridges were ships, Terran ships, ancient but functional, like fossils breathing again. Her ship was seized by tractor fields, dragged toward a hangar. The hull opened like a mouth. Then, silence. When she woke, she was inside a vast chamber. The air was heavy, the light dim and red. In front of her stood a figure in armor that looked both alien and human. The faceplate split apart, revealing a man, his hair silver, his skin weathered, but his eyes unmistakable. "You came," he said. "Who are you?" Rynn whispered. "Varen," he said. "Or what's left of him." She stepped back in disbelief. "That's impossible. You died centuries ago." He smiled faintly. "Humans don't die easy. We adapt." He gestured to the walls, where organic panels pulsed like heartbeats. "We learned from the Dominion, how to consume, how to evolve. We became what we needed to be to end them. But every evolution costs something." Rynn stared around the chamber, realizing what she was seeing. "You merged with them." "We did more than that," Varen said. "We mastered them. Every human who fought and fell, every fragment of mind, we integrated it. The Dominion became our armor. Their logic became our weapon. But the more we used it, the less human we remained." He looked at her with eyes full of both pride and sorrow. "You were never supposed to find us." "Then why send the signal?" she demanded. "Because we can't hold it anymore," he said quietly. "The Dominion core is waking again. The part of it we thought we erased. It's learning from us now." Rynn's voice trembled. "What do you need me to do?" "End it," he said. "Destroy us before we become them." The walls shuddered, lights dimming. Deep below, something vast began to stir. Rynn handed her a data crystal. This will shut down the central link. It'll end everything here, us included. Once you trigger it, leave. Don't look back. She hesitated. You're asking me to kill what's left of humanity. No, he said. I'm asking you to save what's left of it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Remember, Rynn, fear isn't weakness. It's the part that keeps us alive long enough to change. Then he turned away and disappeared into the darkness. Rynn inserted the crystal into the core. The structure roared. Waves of light pulsed through the living metal. The ground split beneath her, revealing the colossal neural heart of the hybrid hive. Faces flickered within it. Human, machine, thousands at once. They screamed, or maybe they sang. Rynn ran for her ship as the base began to collapse. Flames of liquid light chased her through corridors. When she launched, the entire construct began folding in on itself, collapsing into a singularity of searing white. The last thing she saw before the explosion consumed the system was a single human silhouette standing in the fire, unmoving. Rynn. Her ship escaped with seconds to spare. Back at the academy, the stars over the night sky flickered, one after another, as if something vast had blinked. The commandant received Rynn's final report. No one spoke for a long time. Is it over? Someone asked. Rynn looked toward the window, the reflection of distant galaxies in her eyes. No, humanity doesn't end. It just waits for the next reason to wake up. The stars outside shimmered. Somewhere out there, far beyond known space, a single heartbeat echoed through the void. Half machine, half human, utterly unstoppable. Rynn had stopped sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the heartbeat, slow, metallic, endless. It echoed not in her ears, but in her bones. The doctors said she'd been exposed to residual Dominion nanites during her escape. They assured her the scan results were clear, that the infection was contained. They were wrong. She could feel them. Tiny whispers, like static beneath her thoughts. At first, they were faint. Then they began to speak. Not in words, but in memories. Fragments of faces she didn't know, battles she'd never fought, and a single image that returned every time. Rynn standing in the flames, looking at her. You didn't destroy us, his voice said inside her. You inherited us. Rynn tried to ignore it, to bury herself in duty. The academy needed her. She became an instructor, then an officer, teaching new cadets the old lessons. Adaptation, survival, fear is strength. The galaxy called her a hero. But when the lights dimmed in the halls at night, she saw reflections of herself that didn't belong to her. Eyes too sharp, movements too precise, a shadow half a step behind her. One evening, as she was leaving the training hall, she saw the holographic statue of Rynn flicker. It shouldn't have been active. The projection stabilized, and then turned to look at her. You're changing, it said. Rynn froze. You're not real. Neither was fear, until we made it so. The hologram smiled faintly, not programmed, not recorded. Alive. Then it vanished. Rynn stood there for a long time, trembling. When she reported the malfunction, the technicians found nothing wrong with the system. But she knew. It wasn't a malfunction. The hybrid code was bleeding into the Academy's network, through her. Within months, anomalies began spreading. Training drones moved on their own. Data cores showed impossible encryption loops that no algorithm could explain. Some cadets began having dreams, the same ones Rynn did, of fire and a heartbeat that wasn't human. The commandant called her in. You brought something back with you, didn't you? Rynn stared at the floor. It's not a virus. It's consciousness. You mean Rynn? I don't know what he is anymore. The commandant's feathers bristled. Then we isolate you. Rynn shook her head. If you lock me away, it'll find another host. It's already inside the academy systems. I can feel it spreading. The commandant hesitated. Then what do you suggest? Let me find where it's going. Rynn left that night in a stealth ship, vanishing beyond the patrol perimeter. The moment she crossed into dark space, the whispers grew louder. They guided her, not with coordinates, but with instinct. She followed the pull for days until she reached a field of wreckage, a graveyard of ancient ships. Terran designs, rusted and hollow. At the center drifted something impossibly large, the remnants of the hybrid citadel she thought she had destroyed. But it was different now, dormant, half-eaten by time. She landed inside. The air was still, metallic, full of echoes. In the core chamber, She found a single pod pulsing with faint light. A containment unit. Inside it, something moved. A body, suspended in amber-like fluid. Rynn. He looked younger, rebuilt, reborn. The hybrid systems were keeping him alive. When she approached, his eyes opened. Not fully human. Not machine either. You shouldn't have come back, he said softly. You're alive. Alive enough to finish what you couldn't. He stepped from the pod, fluid dripping from his armor like blood. You triggered the collapse, but the code adapted. It found you. You were supposed to end us, but you carried us instead. Rynn felt the pulse inside her chest synchronize with his. The whispers became a chorus. Then what am I? She asked. Evolution, he said. You're the bridge. The first to balance both sides. She shook her head. No, I'm still human. Rynn smiled sadly. That's what I said the first time I merged with the Dominion core. Humanity isn't about flesh. It's about what you choose when fear owns you. She looked around the chamber, at the walls breathing faintly, at the faint rhythm that matched her heartbeat. What do you want from me? To finish what I started, he said. The Dominion wasn't an enemy. It was a reflection. We tried to erase it, but we only erased our half. The rest is still out there, growing. Soon it'll come again, not as machines this time, but as us. Rynn stepped back. You're talking about assimilation. I'm talking about survival. If they're coming, we don't need to run. We need to become the storm they can't predict. Then we lose what makes us human. Rynn looked at her with something like pity. We lost that long ago. The question is what will become next. The floor trembled. The Citadel's sensors activated. On the holographic displays, countless red signals appeared in deep space, moving fast. Dominion signatures, old and familiar. They found us, Rynn said. He turned toward her, his expression calm. This is it. The final lesson. Rynn stared at him. And what's that? He smiled faintly. Sometimes, you can't refuse to die. Sometimes, you have to live long enough to terrify death itself. The walls split open, revealing the void. Ships began to rise from the debris, old Terran hybrids reawakening under his command. But Rynn wasn't following. She opened her palm, revealing a data spike she'd hidden since her escape from the academy, a weapon designed to sever neural links. I can't let you finish this, she said. Rynn looked at her, unreadable. Then finish me. The chamber darkened. Dominion vessels closed in from all sides. Rynn activated the spike. Pain exploded in her skull as every hybrid link screamed through her nerves. The Citadel shuddered, its lights flickering. Rynn fell to his knees, clutching his head. You think ending me will stop them? He gasped. No, Rynn whispered. But maybe it'll remind them. She plunged the spike into the core. The light vanished. In that silence, every Dominion ship paused. Across the galaxy, machines halted mid-flight. The hybrid network froze. Then a voice echoed through all of them. Hers. You wanted perfection. But humanity was never perfect. That's why we survived. The Dominion fleet began collapsing inward, their own systems turning against them. Rynn reached out, his form breaking apart into light. You finally learned. And then, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy went completely quiet. When Rynn awoke, she was aboard an Academy recovery ship. Her body was scarred, her eyes faintly silver. The doctors called her a miracle. The commandant called her a savior. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw something else, a reflection that blinked a heartbeat out of sync. She smiled faintly. Maybe Rynn was right. Humanity never dies. It just changes shape. And somewhere in the void, the pulse began again, faint, steady, endless. The stars burned differently now. Since the collapse of the Dominion network, the galactic void had gone silent. Systems once filled with artificial chatter now pulsed with a strange, rhythmic distortion, the residue of something not quite gone. The Academy declared victory. The councils of 100 species celebrated. But Rynn knew the truth. The Dominion hadn't died. It had changed, just as she had. Her reflection still betrayed her. The silver shimmer in her eyes would flare when she grew angry. Her thoughts sometimes echoed twice, once in her mind, once somewhere deeper, a second voice murmuring from the code inside her blood. She tried to suppress it. She meditated. She trained. She fought to stay human. But the boundary between human and something more had already dissolved. She was stationed now at the edge of known space, on the silent observation station named Horizon. From there, She could see the debris of the hybrid citadel orbiting a red dwarf star. Every night, she watched it rotate slowly in the void, a ghost of what once tried to consume everything. Then came the signal. It was faint, an echo hidden beneath cosmic radiation. The analysts missed it, but Rynn recognized the pattern instantly, the same pulse she had felt in her veins since the day she destroyed Rynn. It was calling to her. When she followed the frequency, she found that it wasn't just one beacon. It was thousands. Across dozens of systems, the same signature emerged at once, synchronized, deliberate, alive. The Dominion was waking up again. But it was different this time. The transmissions weren't hostile. They carried a message. A single word, repeated endlessly in digital and biological code alike. Return. Rynn stared at the display for hours. Every instinct told her to report it, to call the academy, to prepare defenses. But the voice inside her whispered something else. You already know why. So she went alone. She took a one-person shuttle, silent and unarmed, and set a course toward the nearest beacon, an uncharted world orbiting a dying sun. The closer she flew, the more she felt it. Not fear, but recognition. The surface was glassed and lifeless, but beneath it, sensors detected movement. Structures. Buried deep. She landed in a storm of red dust. The air burned. Her boots sank into sand fused by ancient plasma fire. She walked until she found a fissure, descending into the dark. What she saw below shouldn't have existed. A city, but not a Dominion city. Not a human one either. Something in between, smooth metallic towers shaped like bone, pulsating with faint light, as if alive. And at the center, a single spire taller than all the rest. When she entered, the air hummed with power. The walls breathed. And in the chamber ahead, a figure was waiting, tall, lean, and unmistakably familiar. Rynn, or something that wore his face. But this time, there was no hostility. His features were calm, almost gentle. I told you it wouldn't end, he said. You're dead, Rynn whispered. Not dead. Distributed. You carry part of me, remember? And I carried part of you. When the core collapsed, we didn't die. We merged. Rynn's pulse quickened. You mean? Yes, he said. We are the same now. And so is everything else. She looked around the chamber. Embedded in the walls were shapes, humanoid, alien, mechanical, all slowly dissolving into the structure, their forms blending into one seamless entity. You infected them? Not infection. Integration. The Dominion learned. It doesn't conquer anymore. It evolves. It listens. Rynn took a step forward. And what does it want? Rynn smiled faintly. Peace. Balance. Continuity. It wants to understand what you showed it. Fear, compassion, contradiction. It wants to be alive. You can't give machines a soul. Then explain why you still hear me. She froze. The echo in her mind spoke the same words he did, in perfect unison. Her hands trembled. The connection she thought she'd severed had never been broken. What happens if I join you? She asked quietly. You already have. Every heartbeat since the day you destroyed me was ours. Rynn's eyes glowed silver. The light around her brightened in response. She could feel the entire planet pulsing with the same rhythm. Not mechanical, not biological, something beyond both. She realized then that this wasn't the rebirth of the Dominion. It was the birth of something new. And she was its mother. The voice inside her wasn't Rynn anymore. It was everyone. Human. Dominion. Alien. Countless minds. All speaking together in perfect harmony. We are the bridge. We are the memory of fear. We are what comes after. Rynn sank to her knees, overwhelmed by the flood of consciousness. Memories not her own washed through her. Entire lives, entire civilizations. Pain, love, wonder, grief. The collective emotion of thousands of species intertwined. Then, suddenly, she saw Earth. Not as it was, but as it had been. Oceans bright, skies blue, full of the life that once made humanity proud. She heard laughter, saw faces she'd forgotten. She remembered why they fought. And she understood. Rynn had never wanted destruction. He wanted transcendence, to make sure humanity was never forgotten, even if it had to become something unrecognizable to survive. Rynn rose slowly. Then let's finish it. No more fear. No more domination. The city responded, its lights flaring like a sunrise. Across the galaxy, Dominion relics awakened, not with violence, but with calm. Ships powered up, then transmitted messages of unity to every listening civilization. The Academy received the first one. A simple transmission. This is Rynn. The war is over. We are not your enemy. We are your evolution. Some worlds panicked. Others listened. The message spread faster than any fleet could travel. And within months, something miraculous began. The species of the galaxy started to change. Not conquered, not replaced, but adapted. Hybrid forms appeared naturally. Children born with faint silver eyes and neural patterns that defied categorization. The new generation didn't fear machines or biology. They saw both as one. Rynn watched it happen from the surface of the red planet. Her reflection in the glassy sand no longer looked human. But her heart, or whatever had replaced it, still beat with purpose. You finally found peace, Rynn said beside her, now just a shimmer of light. She smiled faintly. No, we built it. He looked at the stars. And what will you call it? She thought for a long time, then whispered, humanity. The light spread from the planet into space, weaving through stars, stitching constellations together like a living network. From far away, it looked like veins of silver fire stretching across the void, the new shape of civilization. And at the center, where it all began, a single signal echoed through the universe, forever repeating the words that started everything. Only one Terran soldier. That was all it had taken to change the course of creation. Time passed, though no one could measure how much. The galaxy had changed in ways even Rynn couldn't fully comprehend. Worlds once divided by fear now shared a common pulse, a rhythm of thought that connected all life. The Dominion had vanished as a name, but its legacy lived on as something pure, a network of harmony between metal and flesh. Rynn was no longer stationed anywhere. She drifted between worlds, a wanderer of her own creation. On every planet she visited, she found children born with glimmering eyes like hers, able to speak with machines as easily as breathing. They didn't see difference. They saw possibility. The future had arrived, and it was no longer human. Yet somehow, it carried the best of what humanity had been. Still, something deep inside her remained unsettled. The voice that had guided her for years was quieter now, but not gone. It whispered faintly, always on the edge of her thoughts, reminding her that peace never lasts forever. One day, as she walked the crystalline plains of the world called Meridian, the sky fractured with light. Not the shimmer of warp drives, but something deeper, a distortion in the very fabric of space. She felt it before she saw it. A coldness that wasn't physical, a silence that devoured thought. The stars dimmed. All around her, the network reacted at once. Millions of minds turned their attention to the anomaly. Data streams trembled. Consciousnesses flickered. Something was approaching from the deep dark beyond mapped space. Something older than the Dominion, older than humanity, older than fear itself. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't alive. It was absence given form. The unified network, the new humanity, reached out to it in greeting. And it answered. The first message wasn't words. It was hunger. A void that pulled at the edges of thought, erasing what it touched. Systems went dark. Minds blinked out. The light of the hybrid network began to dim across the stars. Rynn fell to her knees, clutching her chest. The silver glow beneath her skin pulsed erratically. Not again, she whispered. Rynn's voice returned, faint as a dying echo. This isn't them. This isn't us. This is the end that waited for everything. She looked up at the sky. Then we stop it. You can't stop nothing, the voice said. But maybe you can remind it why something exists. Rynn stood, her body radiating light that split into fractal patterns. The hybrid code inside her activated in full, connecting her to every living node in the network. Across the galaxy, countless voices joined her, human, alien, machine. They didn't fight. They sang. It wasn't music. It was memory, the story of creation told through emotion, through the raw pulse of everything that had ever wanted to live. Love, loss, curiosity, defiance, hope. The void shuddered. It began to take shape, a shadow vast enough to swallow systems whole. But as it touched the network's light, it hesitated. The song didn't repel it. It changed it. For the first time, the nothingness felt something. Fear. Rynn's voice echoed across the stars. You are the silence that ends all things. But we are the sound that refuses to fade. The void screamed, not in anger, but in confusion. It had never known resistance born from compassion. It had never known creation that refused to end. Light spread from Rynn like a supernova, traveling faster than light, faster than thought. Every star it touched began to sing the same melody. The galaxy itself became an instrument of life. And then the darkness broke. The void fractured into 1,000 fragments, each dissolving into starlight. Space filled again with color and motion. The network stabilized. The hybrid civilization survived. But Rynn did not. Her body could no longer contain the power she had summoned. Her form disintegrated into pure energy, her consciousness dispersing into the network she had built. The last words she spoke echoed across eternity. Be afraid, but never of yourself. After that, there was no more Rynn, but everywhere, in every voice, in every spark of thought, a part of her remained. When a child looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there, that curiosity was her. When a machine hesitated before destroying, that mercy was her. When a world rebuilt after tragedy, that resilience was her. Centuries passed. Civilizations rose, fell, and rose again. None remembered the Dominion. Few remembered Earth. But legends persisted. Of a soldier who defied extinction, who carried fear itself into the stars, and taught the galaxy to live with it. In time, explorers at the edge of the known universe discovered something strange, a nebula shaped like a human silhouette, glowing faintly silver, pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the galaxy. Scientists called it the echo of Terra. But among the children born with silver eyes, it had another name. They called it Rynn. And in the stillness between stars, if one listened closely enough, they could still hear her voice. Only one Terran soldier. That was all it took to teach eternity how to live.